Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
It has been said that Vince McMahon holds a grudge, and if you screw him over, you'll be fired and never work for him again. While that is true of a few names, there are some people Vince is happy to forgive and forget, bringing them back into the fold despite their differences. I am Luke Owen, and these are 4 WWE enemies Vince McMahon actually hired. Bruno Sammartino had been Vince McMahon Sr.'s longest-running champion, holding the belt for over 2,000 days. But he wasn't as keen on Vince Jr.'s version of WWF, which was more about colourful characters. He was even against Pyro. Things got worse after he left the company in the early 1990s, when he went on record about the drug culture in wrestling, particularly the steroid use in WWF, which only worsened in the Attitude Era, which also featured other things Sammartino wasn't keen on, like foul language, nudity, and excessive violence. Because of his comments, Vince McMahon essentially blacklisted Sammartino from the record books, instead writing the revisionist history that wrestling was built on the foundations laid by Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and Shawn Michaels. That all changed in 2013 when Triple H reached out to Sammartino about being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Sammartino had said publicly that he wouldn't want to be inducted, but Triple H convinced him that the company had changed its ways. It took several phone calls and a price that Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer described as in line with what one of the company's top stars would earn for a WrestleMania payoff, but Sammartino finally agreed to go into the Hall of Fame and be put on a WWE Legends deal. During the negotiations, he never spoke to Vince McMahon, but finally met with him hours before the ceremony began. As I came in, I was waiting for him to make the first move to see what he was going to say before I responded. And actually, as I walked in, he looked at me and he smiled and said, "Bruno, welcome home," just like that. And I said, "Well, Vince, I'm glad to be home, but we both know the situation and what brought me back home. I have also been very critical of you, but I also will recognize the fact that you have made drastic changes, and for that I applaud you." You all know the story here. Bret Hart didn't want to lose the WWF Championship against Shawn Michaels in Canada, but was heading to WCW, who had a habit of asking former WWF wrestlers to drop their titles in the bin. And thus we got the Montreal Screwjob, where Vince McMahon told referee Earl Hebner to ring the bell and signal the end of the match while Michaels had Bret in his own sharpshooter. Hart left the company, spitting on Vince in the process, and was thought to be never seen again. The two did reconcile their differences over the phone when Hart suffered a stroke in 2002, but it was a very rocky relationship. WWE approached Hart about several opportunities, including being a referee at WrestleMania X8, acting as Raw general manager during the Vince vs. Donald Trump feud, and having a feud with Vinnie Mac, which would culminate in Hart teaming with Shawn Michaels to take on Vince and Shane McMahon. He finally agreed to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2006, but even that came with its issues. Hart made it clear he would not attend WrestleMania the next day, which led to a scene with McMahon as he left for the airport the day of the show. It wasn't until 2009 when Bret Hart finally agreed to come back to WWE, appearing on the January 4th, 2010 edition of Raw, which had no correlation between the show going head-to-head with TNA Impact and the debut of Hulk Hogan. Nothing at all. Although the WWE Network series The Monday Night War frames WWF vs. WCW as being Vince McMahon against Ted Turner, the war was really between Vince and Eric Bischoff. Eazy-E was the guy leading the charge, making all the decisions, and wanted to put the WWF out of business. He publicly challenged Vince to fights on national TV, and used underhand tricks like giving away the results of their taped shows so viewers could stay watching the live Nitro broadcasts. Bischoff was not part of the invasion angle after Vince bought WCW, but WWF did reach out to him in 2001 to be a part of Monday Night Raw, and Eric turned it down. The following year, the decision was made to split the Raw and SmackDown brands, with Stephanie and Shane McMahon as the general managers. However, Vince felt that had been done before and asked for a few names to be thrown out. One name was Eric Bischoff, and Vince McMahon called him. We got on the phone, and the first thing he said to me was, "You know, Eric, I would like to think that if the situation would have turned out differently and you would have come out on top, that you would reach out to me for an opportunity to step back in." What a gracious, elegant elegant, classy, humble thing to say. Bischoff made his WWE debut on July 15, 2002, shocking the wrestling world by hugging his most hated rival, Vince McMahon. Vince had big plans for the Ultimate Warrior, essentially positioning him as the next guy to lead the company after Hulk Hogan. He won the WWF Championship at WrestleMania, but dropped it to Sergeant Slaughter at Royal Rumble the following year because the decision had been made to put the belt back on the Hulkster. In the following months, Warrior became upset with his pay, feeling he didn't earn as much as Hogan did, which all came to a head at SummerSlam 1991, where Warrior and Hogan faced the Triangle of Terror. In the WWE released 2005 documentary The Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, Vince, Hogan, and Slaughter all claimed that Warrior stood McMahon up for cash, threatening to no-show the event. It has since been revealed that Warrior had asked for his WrestleMania payout, around $500,000, but it was a couple of weeks ahead of time in a 5-page letter addressed directly to Vince. McMahon agreed, but only so Warrior would show up for SummerSlam, and then promptly suspended him following the match. Warrior returned 7 months later, but was fired in 1992 following a drugs test failure. Despite their issues, Warrior did return to WWF in 1996, but began to no-show events and was released shortly thereafter. Warrior was on the WWE blacklist for many years, the 2005 documentary being a prime example. But in 2014, he returned to WWE to be inducted into their Hall of Fame. Vince, thank you for your personal welcome back to the WWE Universe. It is noted and appreciated. All the Warriors of Parts Unknown take pride in being one of the original galaxies of the universe you created. I am proud Ultimate Warrior is an iconic immortal spirit in the universe you created. I know, Vince McMahon, you are proud too. Did you know there is a missing Undertaker WrestleMania match? And here are 5 examples of wrestlers hitting fans. Click the videos to the left to find out more. Press subscribe and support WrestleTalk on Patreon. I have been Luke Owen, and that was wrestling.